Major General Paul Eaton, who was in charge of training the Iraqi military from 2003 to 2004. He's now a senior advisor to VoteVets.org. Thank you so much for your time tonight, General.
Allison, great to be with you. Thank you.
Let's start with the basic message of the president's speech today, that retreating from Iraq could cause the same violent reaction that happened in Vietnam after the U.S. troops pulled out. Do you think the president's comparisons today were accurate?
Allison, it's a very unfortunate trip back into history. It reveals a couple of things. One, it reveals a fundamental understanding, a misunderstanding of what the Vietnam War was about. Our enemy there was the North Vietnamese Army and their proxy forces, the Viet Cong. The issue in Iraq is a religious-based civil war with al-Qaeda thrown in there to complicate the affair. So drawing an analogy is unfortunate. It's further unfortunate for this president because there are some untidy parallels between the behaviors of civilian leadership, senior civilian leadership in Vietnam during the Vietnam conflict and during this Iraq conflict.
What untidy parallels?
We figured things out on the ground in Vietnam. When Creighton Abrams took command in the summer of '68, he got things turned around pretty well militarily, and we were on a path that made a whole lot more sense than it did under the previous commander. We're seeing a similar shift militarily right now with the Petraeus command. The failure on the part of the civilian leaders of the United States to have a clearly laid out strategic vision for the Vietnam War led to its unfortunate conclusion. And we have a similar failure on the part of this administration to truly understand what this counterinsurgency, what this religious civil war is about, and getting after a diplomatic surge that will help the American soldier in Iraq during this so-called military surge.
One thing Mr. Bush did, somehow he wove in 9/11 attacks even into this, even though al-Qaeda had nothing to do with the Iraq war initially. Still, he made the point that Osama bin Laden and Zawahiri have mentioned the U.S. leaving Vietnam as a sign of weakness. Is that a reason to hold firm, not to give al-Qaeda's leadership fuel for recruitment?
It's not a reason. It still begs the question, where is the State Department? Where is the diplomatic surge to put this thing in a regional context and to unweight the American soldier? We can't conduct a precipitous withdrawal from Iraq. This has got to be a very gradual affair, drawing down forces, taking them out of the direct line of fire, yet retaining forces to fight al-Qaeda, retaining forces to support the Iraqi security forces, but all the while getting regional actors involved so that we can solve this problem, which everybody recognizes is not a purely military dilemma.
General, this is a little bit of a personal question. I hope you don't mind, but as a veteran, what did you think when you heard the president was going to go down this road, giving this speech to this audience? Aren't there other issues out there he might have addressed?
My father's name is engraved on the Vietnam War Memorial. Killed in action after missing in action for 38 years. I thought it was a bad idea to start going down this link to Vietnam during this speech. It did not serve the country well. It does not serve the American fighting man and woman in Iraq well, and it certainly doesn't serve veterans well.
Retired Army Major General Paul Eaton, a veteran of the Iraq War. Thanks for your time tonight and for your service, sir.
Thank you, Allison.
Tonight, though, to discuss these developments and more is retired Army Major General Paul Eaton. During his time in Iraq, General Eaton was in charge of training Iraqi security forces, including the Iraqi military. He joins us tonight from Seattle. General Eaton, nice to have you back on the program, sir, and thanks for your time.
Tavis, great to be with you again. Thank you.
Let me start with what it does to a soldier when he hears that another deadly day in Iraq is over now. 14 U.S. soldiers killed in this helicopter crash.
Tavis, perhaps from the perspective of a father of soldiers, my sons are soldiers, and my heart goes out to every mom and dad and family member of the men we've lost. And my respects to General Mixon for what he is going through, and I wish them all very well.
You can't talk about this, for better or worse, fortunately or unfortunately, you can't talk about these kinds of days without linking this to the politics of what we are in. There's just no way to get around that. So I hear your expression of concern. I want to get that out of the way first. Let me ask you, though, in your own mind, what this does to underscore whatever it is that you feel about what we are doing or not doing, as it were, in Iraq politically.
Tavis, we've kind of discussed this in the past. We have a failure on the part of the government to get after a diplomatic surge, a political surge, to help the American soldier in this endeavor. We went into this war without a clear-cut strategy, and we have yet to bring to bear the full power of the United States, diplomatically or economically, to help the men and women on the ground serving our country in uniform in this grinding attrition warfare that we're in.
Comments earlier today. On one hand, we lose 14 soldiers in a helicopter crash. Here's what your president says about Iraq. And I quote, "Iraq is one of the several fronts in this war on terror, but it's a central front. It's a central front for the enemy that attacked us and wants to attack us again. And it's a central front for the United States, and to withdraw without getting the job done would be devastating." Let me give you a quick response here, General Eaton. What I hear the president saying, again, he's still tying what happened to us on 9/11 to Iraq.
The president is working the only political agenda that he can to justify what we're doing now in Iraq. Iraq is a distractor from the overall global mission of the United States Army to fight and win the nation's wars. He had to draw down forces and equipment in Afghanistan in order to fund the Iraq war effort. We have managed to create greater numbers of opponents by what we are doing in Iraq right now.
Let me run right quick before my time runs out. Let me run 3 quick quotes here, specifically about the Iraqi government, since we've now shared with you what President Bush had to say about Iraq on this deadly day. First, Senator Carl Levin out of Michigan, important committee chair. "I hope the Iraqi Assembly, when it reconvenes in 2 weeks, will vote the Maliki government out of office." Then Hillary Clinton, the front runner for the Democratic nomination, says, and I quote, "I share Senator Levin's hope that the Iraqi parliament will replace Prime Minister Maliki with a less divisive and more unifying figure when it returns in a few weeks." And then here's what Mr. Maliki, the Prime Minister in Iraq, has to say, and I quote, "No one has the right to place timetables on the Iraqi government. It was elected by its people." My time is short here, but the politics, General Eaton, about what will happen to this government aren't going away anytime soon, it appears.
The president's definition of victory is a Jeffersonian-style democracy in Iraq. He tried to use historical examples in his address to the veterans of foreign wars today. And whoever wrote that speech, by the way, needs to go back to school. The al-Maliki government is simply not delivering. The surge was designed to give it room to deliver on its promises, and it has failed.
Major General Eaton, thank you for joining us tonight. I always appreciate your insight.